After 15 years of dedication, I resigned, causing chaos in the company and financial trouble because my father favored my younger brother over me. Hello everyone, before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let us keep this channel growing together. Thank you very much. Now, let's begin the video. Hello Reddit, long-time lurker and first-time poster. I had to get this off my chest before I lost my sanity. If you don't want to read my son's tale, you can find the TLDR at the bottom. So, I'm a 34-year-old male who has been working for my father's plumbing firm, Taylor & Sons Plumbing, for 15 years. The son section is supposed to be about me and my younger brother Matt, 31M, but it's more like Taylor and his favorite son. And the other one who does all of the work. My father founded this company around 30 years ago. A classic small business story. We started with just him in a van and now have 15 plumbers, 3 office workers, and are one of the larger plumbing companies in our community. And I'm not being arrogant when I suggest that most of that growth occurred after I joined. After high school, I attended college to study business management for 4 years, earning an official degree. Meanwhile, my brother Matt barely graduated high school and required 6 years to complete a 2-year degree at a community college. While I was studying, he was uploading gym selfies and making his way around the local bar scene. After graduation, I returned home to work for my family's business. Dad emphasized the need of learning from the ground up, so I spent 3 years as a plumber's assistant, unclogging toilets, crawling beneath houses, and dealing with others' physical. Fine, whatever. I got it. Can't manage plumbers if you don't know what they do. I worked my way up, obtained my master plumber's license, which is a massive pain in the ass, BTW, and learned scheduling, inventory, and all of the boring but essential stuff that keeps a business running. I worked 60-hour weeks for years, missed my friends' weddings due to emergency calls, and did not date for around 5 years. Who has time? Then I finally made it. I became operations manager about 5 years ago. I began implementing all of the systems I had been planning. Digital scheduling, better inventory management. Follow-up calls following jobs. Our reviews went from 3.5 to 4.8 stars. Revenue increased by 40% in 2 years. Dad genuinely appeared impressed for once. Then Matt shows up. Enter Matt. Until now, my brother had been bouncing between bartending and finding himself. Suddenly, he decides he wants to join the family business. Keep in mind that this guy has never exhibited any interest in plumbing. I can't tell the difference between PVC and copper pipe. I think a P-trap is something you use to catch animals. But Dad is absolutely thrilled. His golden boy has finally joined the family legacy, and this is where everything goes to hell. Dad offers Matt a made-up title like Director of Client Relations, and a salary that is 80% of mine, despite the fact that I've been there a decade longer. Matt is assigned an office with a window. Meanwhile, I am still in the converted closet adjacent to the restroom. What's his job? Taking clients to lunch. We're posting on our social media. Occasionally showing up at project sites to photograph our plumbers working, always making sure to include himself in the shot, as if he's overseeing. He arrives around 10 a.m., has 2-hour lunch breaks, and departs at 4 p.m., due to traffic. Every staff meeting, Dad compliments Matt on bringing in some minor contract while completely disregarding the fact that I recently optimized our whole billing system and saved us $50,000 per year. It's as if I'm invisible. There was one instance when I spent weeks putting together a bid for this massive commercial project, the largest contract we'd ever pursued. I'm talking about binder-thick proposals. I even pulled an all-nighter to finish it. On the day of the meeting, Dad brings Matt along. Matt had not read a single page of the proposal. Matt, who was hungover, kept racing to the bathroom. Matt, who described the client's building as that big place with the sign, throughout the meeting. We received the deal anyway since my figures were good. On the drive back, Dad couldn't stop gushing about Matt's connection with their team and how his people skills sealed the deal. My contribution? Dad commented that my attention to detail was beneficial. Helpful. As if I were the freaking office assistant. Moms know better when I try to talk to her about it. She gives me a sad expression and says things like, "You and your brother are just different kinds of people. Not everyone can be as organized as you are." As if competence were a character fault. The final straw. One day, I overheard Dad speaking with Matt in his office. The door wasn't completely closed. Dad was talking about succession planning. When you take over the company, and asked Matt if he wanted to learn about the finances. My name did not come up. Not even once, Not even, maybe your brother can help you with the accounting, or something. The company I helped establish. The company I've dedicated my entire adult life to. And I am not even considered a prospective future owner. Just the workhorse who keeps things going while Matt takes the spotlight. Keeping my head down. I kept my head down and finished the work. It was not like I could do something about it. Then, around 9 months ago, our administrative assistant quit. She had been with us for 5 years but received a better offer elsewhere. Dad said we needed to hire someone with more office management experience because we were expanding. Enter Julie, 29 Fahrenheit. Something resonated with me the moment she walked through the door for her interview. She walked with confidence, her dark hair was always in a perfect bun, and her emerald eyes seemed to see right through all the bogus corporate BS. She wasn't one of Matt's typical Instagram model types, but she was stunning in a refined, put-together sense. Her resume? Impressive as hell. Business degree. Experience managing offices for firms far larger than ours. There are numerous accounting software and business operations certifications available. Dad was so thrilled that he hired her on the spot. Something he never does. Julie changes everything. How about her first week? She thoroughly restructured our filing system, which hadn't been updated since the 1990s. Is this her second week? She discovered $20,000 in unpaid invoices from the previous year and collected it. Is this her third week? She confronted my father about our antiquated scheduling system and persuaded him to invest in the software I had been yearning for years. I was essentially in love. We started having lunch together in the break room. We initially discussed only work-related topics. Then we realized we both enjoyed the same true crime podcasts. Then I discovered she enjoys hiking, which I do as well. Then there were movies, novels, and all that. It was so simple to chat to her, unlike those awful Tinder dates where you're trying to think of anything to say. Asking her out after a few months of the lunch thing, I finally got the nerve to ask her out. For real. Dinner on Friday night at that new Thai restaurant downtown. Not the break room, with our sad Tupperware meals. She agreed right away, smiling in a way that made me feel like I wasn't simply the family doormat. We scheduled it for the following Friday. I was ridiculously excited. I even caught myself whistling while fixing a sink on one job site, which completely confused the apprentice working with me. I did not inform anyone at work about our date arrangements. My family has a specific gift for spoiling anything nice that occurs to me, so I decided to remain silent until things got serious. A big mistake. The gut punch. 2 days before our date, I was returning from work when I heard Julie giggling in the hallway. That genuine chuckle was something I had worked hard for weeks to obtain. But she was not laughing at what I said. She was chuckling about something Matt said. As I approached the corner, I noticed them standing far too close together at the coffee machine. Matt was performing his famous lean against the wall, "Look how cool I am" posture. He was showing her something on his phone, and she was genuinely interested in whatever rubbish he was spewing. "Hey, Ryan," Matt said as he noticed me, using that false brotherly tone he saves for when other people are present. "Just showing Julie those kayaking pics from last weekend." Kayaking? Matthew. The guy who complains about having to walk from his automobile to a restaurant while it's raining. The guy who once asked me if the river near our house included those fish things. Since when does he frickin' kayak? Julie smiled at me, but it was not the same grin. It was simply polite, professional. The kind you give to a coworker, not the person you're about to go on a date with. My stomach sank. "They're amazing photos," Julie replied, returning her gaze to Matt. "I've always wanted to try kayaking but never had the chance." "You should come with me sometime," Matt added, flashing that idiotic smile that always works on ladies. "I go most weekends when the weather's good. Very peaceful out on the water." Let me tell you, this guy has never kayaked in his life. The closest he's been to a water sport is drinking beer on someone else's boat. But suddenly, Mr. Outdoorsy appeared. "That would be fantastic," Julie stated. And she really meant it. I could tell. She turned to face me. "Ryan, I didn't know your brother was so into outdoor activities." "Neither did I mumbled. But they were quickly back to scanning through his phone, which I'm sure featured stock shots of boats or images he found online. The next day, Julie found me alone in the break room. My heart skipped a beat as I wondered if the Matt encounter was all for nothing. "About Friday," she said. And I knew exactly what was coming. "I'm really sorry, but I need to reschedule. Something came up." Something came up is the worldwide code for "I found a better offer." And in this case? My brother undoubtedly made the superior deal. "No problem," I replied, attempting to sound nonchalant. Maybe another time. Definitely, she said. With a smile. A smile that did not reach her eyes. A smile that conveys, "This is never happening." Sure enough, I found out later through an office rumor that Julie and Matt had their first date on Friday, the same day she was supposed to go out with me. At the Thai restaurant where I had planned to take her. The next week was torture. Matt strutted around the office, as if he had won the lottery. Julie flushed every time he passed past her desk. When I entered the room, the whispered talks halted. Matt casually mentioned their date during the staff meeting. I felt like garbage. Every time I try to construct something for myself, Matt swoops in and takes over as if it was never mine in the first place. And of course, things got worse. Matt tells Mom everything, so she knew about it right away. She called over the weekend, all thrilled. "Have you met this Julie that Matthew is seeing? He says she's just wonderful, so accomplished and pretty. She works at your office." "She's our office manager," I replied bluntly. "Well, isn't that nice? Matthew says she's very smart. Organized too. Sounds like she and Matthew have so much in common. They share nothing in common. Except for maybe living on the same planet. But sure, Mom. They are soulmates." Finally, I snapped. "Actually, Mom, Julie and I were supposed to go out first. I asked her out, and she said yes." But then Matt swooped in. There was a prolonged pause. I could almost hear Mom trying to assimilate this information in a way that would not make her beloved Matthew appear terrible. "Well, sweetie, you know how these things go. Sometimes people just connect. Matthew has always been so charming with the ladies. You're more, well, focused on work. Seriously. Not everyone appreciates that like they should." She basically said, "Matt's hot and fun. You're boring. Deal with it." The new power couple. And that's how it began. Matt and Julie, Taylor & Sons Plumbing's new power couple. However, the saddest aspect was not even losing Julie. It was seeing her gradually comprehend who Matt truly was, and pretending not to notice it. The cracks begin to show. He canceled arrangements with her for the first time because his friends invited him to a last-minute poker game. The day she overheard him exaggerating, or outright lying, about his function in the company to a client. She once had to cover for him when he was due to attend a networking event but was too inebriated to show up. I could see the perplexity on her face. The mental gymnastics as she attempted to reconcile the Matt she thought she was dating with the real Matt. However, by that time, they had become official. And she was in too deep. My family circles the wagons. Mom invited Julie to Sunday supper 3 weeks after they began dating. "It'll be nice to have a fresh face," she exclaimed. As if our monthly family dinners weren't already agonizing enough, especially since my work infatuation had picked my brother over me. I almost skipped dinner. But Dad made it clear that it was not optional. Family dinner is family dinner, Ryan. Be there. The dinner from hell, so I went. And it was just the nightmare you'd imagine. Mom went all out, using her best china and preparing a sumptuous roast. Dad told work stories that made Matt sound like a business prodigy. Matt performed his ideal son-boyfriend routine, pulling Julie's chair out, refilling her water glass, telling utterly fabricated stories about his wild weekends and charitable work. Julie ate it all up, laughing at Matt's jokes, questioning him about his fictitious hiking expeditions. While I sat there, knowing that Matt's closest experience with outdoor adventure is when he had to park at the far end of the mall parking lot, I attempted to join the conversation. I described the hiking trail Julie and I had discussed over our break room lunches, just to let him know what he ruined. "Oh, Matt was just telling me about that place," Julie cried, turning to him with excitement. "You've been there too?" "Been there?" Matt asked, laughing. "I practically live on that trail in the summer." "Sure." He is suddenly Bear Grylls. The promotion I deserved at supper happened 6 months ago. They have been formally dating ever since. Anyway, I focused on myself and tried to adjust, praying that things would improve for me. I persuaded myself I didn't really care about what slipped through my fingers. I knew fantastic things would happen. About a month after that dinner, I was ultimately promoted to senior operations manager. After 15 years of killing myself for this company, this was meant to be a big deal. Increased responsibility, better pay. Most importantly, the company's car. Nothing fancy, just a new Ford F-250 with ample towing capacity for transporting equipment to job sites. The announcement that almost was worth it. Dad made a major announcement during our monthly staff meeting. After years of dedicated service, Ryan is being promoted to senior operations manager. This comes with a nice raise and the new company truck we just purchased, Well deserved, son. For once, I felt as if my effort was being recognized. I even allowed myself to get enthusiastic about having a great vehicle for the first time in my life. Instead of my rusted-out Chevy, which is held together with duct tape and prayers. And then came Sunday dinner. Fast forward to Sunday dinner. Mom's preparing her renowned pot roast. Dad's talking about a client. Matt has his arm around Julie, as usual. I'm just hoping to get through the lunch without saying anything I'll regret. Then Dad clears his throat and sets down his fork. I've got an announcement to make, says the man. I immediately tighten up. Because in my family, announcements are never good news. Matt and Julie share this glance, and I know what's next. The bombshell, we're engaged, Julie announces, holding out her left hand. With this huge diamond ring, which likely cost more than my annual income. Mom breaks into joyous tears. Dad begins clapping Matt on the back. I'm sitting there in shock. The fork had frozen halfway to my mouth. This is wonderful news, Dad exclaims. My boy's finally settling down, starting a family. Then he drops the actual bomb. The ultimate betrayal. Matt, I think you and your future bride could use that new truck more than the company could. Consider it an engagement present. You'll need a good family vehicle now. Matt makes a phony astonished face, as if this hadn't been his goal all along. Wow, Dad, that's so generous. I've finally discovered my voice. Dad, that truck is supposed to be part of my promotion package. I need it for work. For actual company business. Dad waved his hand dismissively. Now, Ryan, don't be selfish. Your brother's starting a family. Family comes first. You can keep using your old truck for now. It still runs, doesn't it? Barely, I said. But no one was listening. They were all busy praising the happy couple, discussing wedding plans and future grandchildren. The final straw. That was it? The last straw? The moment I realized I was done with this family business garbage forever. Rage was building up. I was fuming. But nevertheless, I was able to drive home in my piece of junk truck. That decided to create a worrisome rattling noise the entire journey, simply to emphasize the fact that it was on its last legs. Perfect timing. 15 years down the drain, I arrived home. And totally lost it. 15 years. 15 years of dedication, hard work, and sacrifice. 15 years of seeing Matt glide through life on charm and Dad's affection while I developed something worthwhile. Something profitable. Something that was reportedly just turned over, again, to my brother. And now Julie. The only wonderful thing that had happened to me in years was presented to Matt on a silver platter. Complete with an engagement ring and a company truck. I don't think I've ever been so angry in my life. It wasn't even hot or explosive. It was this cold, controlled wrath that suddenly made everything crystal apparent. I was never going to be valued by this family. I was never going to receive what I deserved. I was merely the workhorse, the dependable one they could dump on while Golden Boy received all the glory. The email that changed everything. I grabbed my laptop and checked my email. I looked at the blank compose window for around 10 seconds. Then I started typing. Subject, my resignation. Dad, I am quitting from Taylor & Sons Plumbing, effective immediately. Consider this my 2-week notice, though realistically, you'll be lucky if I make it through the week. I plan to pursue other options. Sincerely, not really, Ryan Taylor. I pushed send before I could back out. Then I sent a separate email to our HR person, who is essentially the bookkeeper who handles payroll, about my accumulated vacation time. I advised them that I would start taking it immediately. I had no intention of returning to the office. The fallout begins. Within minutes, my phone began to blow up. Dad is phoning. Matt texted only WTF, and stupid emoticons. Mom left sobbing voicemails about how I was tearing the family apart, and being overly dramatic. Then Julie called. I let that call go to voicemail. Ryan, it's Julie. Your dad told me you quit. What's going on? Please call me back. As if she didn't know. As if she hadn't been a part of the entire disaster. I disregarded them all. I turned off the phone and began updating my resume. I was finished. I'm done being the family's workhorse. I'm tired of watching Matt get everything he wants while I labor myself to death for scraps of attention. The confrontation dad arrived at my apartment the next morning at 7 a.m. He pounded on the door, as if he were attempting to break it down. What the hell, Ryan? He yelled when I finally opened it, still in my pajamas and unprepared for this showdown. Quitting over email? After everything this family has done for you? I honestly laughed at his face. Done for me? You mean like paying me less than the market wage for 15 years while Matt receives bonuses simply for showing up to work? Or how about offering me a business vehicle as part of my promotion and then giving it to Matt as an engagement present? The excuses? That's different, Dad said, his face flushing. Matt's starting a family. He needs our support. And I don't? I've been supporting this entire family for years. Who do you think keeps the business going while Matt is away enjoying 2-hour lunches and posting on Instagram? Dad's face became even redder. Do not talk about your brother in that way. Matt brings in clients, he is the company's face. And I am what? What about the workhorse? The sucker who actually performs the work while Matt takes all the credit? I am done, Dad. Let Matt manage your business. You don't need me, anyway. The final goodbye. I started to close the door, but Dad's foot got in the way. Classic. You walk away from this company, you walk away from this family, he told me. It was all very dramatic, as if we were watching a horrible television program. I looked him dead in the eyes. If this is how family treats each other, maybe it's for the best, I replied, pushing the door so firmly that Dad had to shift his foot. He pounded and yelled for a bit before giving up and leaving. The aftermath begins. The next day, Matt arrived. I didn't even open the door, but yelled through it that he needed to go before I called the cops. He attempted the "come on, bro, don't be like that" thing, but I wasn't buying it. Mom called repeatedly, crying about how I was breaking your father's heart and tearing the family apart. As if I were the problem here. As if the 15 years of favoritism and disdain were my fault. But, you know what? I've never felt more free in my life. A new beginning. The job search was shockingly easy. That first week, I got 3 interviews, all with larger and more professional organizations than my father's. Both of them made offers. I accepted the position with Wilson Plumbing and Heating, a competitor across town. They're tiny but developing quickly, and the owner, Dave Wilson, values experience and hard effort. Isn't this a novel concept? What is the best part? They offered me a partnership track, in writing. After 2 years, I'll have the chance to buy in and become a part owner. Despite 15 years of service, my father never considered gifting me this. Oh, and they gave me a business truck. A brand new Ford F-350 Super Duty. Better than what Dad took from me. Fully loaded, with the firm logo on the side and everything. During my first week, I made sure to drive past my parents' house. Petty? Yeah. Satisfying? Of course. Watching Taylor & Sons fall apart, meanwhile, the Taylor & Sons enterprise crumbled without me. I've been receiving texts from some of the plumbers, who were truly nice guys, and their stories are better than any revenge fantasy I could have imagined. Week 1. Dad attempts to take over. Dad tried to handle operations on his own while I was gone. He hasn't done the job in 15 years. He had no idea how my scheduling system operated. He ended up scheduling 3 distinct crews on the same day. Then there was no one available for an emergency call at the hospital. That's a large account that I've personally managed for years. They were not pleased. Week 2, Matt gets promoted. Dad delegated responsibility for operations to Matt since he was in over his head. Matthew. He can't even remember to arrange his own dental appointments. Predictably, it was a complete disaster. According to my friend Steve, one of the senior plumbers, Matt arrived late every day. He spent most of his time on the phone with Julie or his friends. Couldn't answer simple job-specific questions. They lost one of our second largest commercial contracts entirely because Matt failed to submit the renewal papers. The account was worth $50,000 each year. Gone. Matt was too busy posting gym selfies or whatever it is he does all day. The dominoes keep falling. The scheduling is so disorganized that they have had to call clients the night before to reschedule. This is infuriating everyone. Their online ratings have plummeted from 4.8 to 3.2 stars in only 3 weeks. Dad is blaming the new system. My system. Not the fools attempting to run it. The office chaos. One of the office employees resigned because Matt continued to blame her for his failures. Accounts receivable are stacking up because no one is invoicing on time. That was another thing I managed that no one seemed to know about. But I didn't expect. Did Dad have to take out a short-term loan to cover payroll? Because their cash flow is all messed up. 3 weeks ago, the business was solidly profitable, is currently struggling to stay afloat. And Julie? Apparently, she stays up late every night to keep things functioning. But she is an office manager, not an operations professional. She can arrange files and answer phones all day, but she knows nothing about schedule plumbing jobs. Managing a group of 15 plumbers. Handling various talents and certifications. She didn't realize what she was getting into with my family. Have you made your bed? Lie in it. The Taylor family breaks apart. Mom has been messaging me nonstop, increasingly desperate messages. Your father's working 16-hour days trying to sort out the schedule. Matt's really trying, but he doesn't understand your system. We had to tell 3 clients we can't get to them this week. Notice that none of these messages contain an actual apology. Or an admission that they messed up. Classic Taylor family. Dad's breaking point. Dad left me only one message, slurring his words as if he had been drinking. This business was okay prior to your sophisticated systems, and it will be fine afterwards. You think you're irreplaceable? No one is. Yes, Dad. Keep reminding yourself of this, while your business rings the drain. Matt's panic mode. Matt's messages have progressed from phony brotherly concern, hey bro, everyone's worried about you. A barely veiled panic. Do you still have the login for the scheduling software? Dad can't find it. To outright desperation. Seriously dude, just tell me how you handled the Henderson specs, their project manager is freaking out. Julie's half-hearted attempt. Am I the only one who hasn't reached out much? Julie. She sent one email to my personal account about a week after my departure. It was lengthy and full of apologies about how she never meant to hurt me, and how things with Matt just happened. And, of course, she hoped we might remain friends. Finally, almost as an afterthought. If you have time, could you possibly write up how you handled the scheduling? We're having some issues. I removed it without replying. Not my circus, not my monkeys. Oh, and the truck? Apparently, it's creating an odd sound. Matt had the audacity to ask if I could look at it, according to his most recent text message. The truck that should have been mine. The truck was part of my promotion but was given to him as an engagement present. I laughed out and then deleted it without answering. Not my truck, not my problem. A new life at Wilson. Meanwhile, I've been at Wilson for 2 weeks now, and it feels like I've entered a parallel dimension where competence is truly respected. Dave asks for my thoughts on operations. My ideas are executed rather than disregarded. The employees appreciate me for my experience, not because I am the boss's son. Yesterday I fully revamped their service call routing system. Dave was so amazed that he offered me a bonus on the spot. A bonus? For executing my job well. What a concept. And then I met Kate. About a week after starting my new job, I met someone. Kate. She's an architect I met on the job site while we were working on the plumbing for a new office building. Smart. Funny. Director. Not playing any games. Kate is nothing like Julie. Kate is real, whereas Julie was always polished and proper. She comes up to dates wearing jeans and boots. She can talk athletics as readily as she talks design. And calls me out on my nonsense in the most refreshing way. She doesn't engage in games. She doesn't say what I want to hear. Kate delivers exactly what she promises. Our third date. For our third date, we went hiking to a waterfall I'd wanted to see for years. Just 2 folks that genuinely enjoy each other's company. I showed her some urgent texts from my relatives. She simply shook her head. They had gold and treated it like dirt. Their loss. My gain. Then she kissed me, and I completely forgot about the family business for the rest of the day. Perhaps for months. A chance encounter. This weekend, Kate and I were at the hardware store, purchasing supplies for my bathroom project, when I noticed them. Matt and Julia. Great. Just as I was enjoying a normal Saturday with my girlfriend. Kate clasped my hand when Julie saw us and yelled out. Matt turned around, appearing as if he'd rather be somewhere else. Hey, bro. I kept it brief. Hey. Julie's gaze immediately focused on Kate, then on our linked hands. How have you been? Good. Really good. This is Kate. I introduced them as Julie sized her up. Kate, the absolute champion, grinned and shook their hands. Nice to meet you both. I've heard a lot about you. Matt's panicked expression. Priceless? The truck problem. Julie inquired about our supplies. Renovating Ryan's bathroom, Kate explained. I'm an architect, handling the design. An architect? That's impressive, Julie exclaimed, suddenly self-conscious. She's an office manager at my family's company, I told her. Why not slightly twist the knife? It turns out they were there because of the truck. You know, the one that kept making strange noises. And of course, Matt had no idea how to fix it. I couldn't resist. The company truck. The one that was supposed to be mine. Matt had the decency to appear embarrassed. Yeah, that one. He had no regrets about what he'd done. Julie's apology. Kind of. Kate, ever the pro, expertly devised an exit route including some fictitious dinner appointments. Julie hesitated as we turned to leave. "Can I have a moment alone?" Kate questioned me, but I nodded. She gripped my hand before moving away. Julie moaned, appearing tireder than I had ever seen her. "The engagement? Taking it slow?" Translation: Matt's true colors were showing. "The business? Not the same without you." Apparently, they had hired 2 individuals to replace me, but they were still lagging behind. "Matt. Different since you left?" "Yeah, working for the first time in his life will accomplish this." She shifted uneasily and tucked her hair behind her ear. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. For coming between you and your brother." I nearly laughed, not in a harsh way, but rather in a "wow, you really didn't get it" sense. "You, Julie, were not the problem. You were simply a symptom of a much larger problem. My family has never valued me." "What about the truck?" "That was just the last straw." She chewed her lip and glanced at Kate. "She seems nice. You two look good together." "We are," I said without hesitation. "She sees me for who I am." Julie nodded as if she understood. But I wasn't convinced she really did. In any case, I was not going to remain around to explain. Mom's final attempt on the way home, my phone rang. "Mom." I'm not sure why I answered. She sounded surprised when I picked up, but she recovered fast, jumping right into the guilt trip. "They miss me. The business is floundering. Matt is overwhelmed. Sunday dinners aren't complete without me." I let her babble while waiting for the inevitable request. "You should come by soon. Maybe we can figure things out." "I'm busy every Sunday for the foreseeable future," I told her, maintaining my voice level. Kate smirked as she overheard from the driver's seat. "Want me to say I told you so? Or would you prefer to just bask in the schadenfreude?" "Definitely basking," I replied, smirking. No going back later that night, as we lay twisted on the couch, watching some bizarre true crime documentary, Kate looked at me. "Would you ever consider going back to the family business?" I didn't even need to think about it. Not even for a second. She grinned, delighted with the response. "I'm not sure what will happen with Taylor and Sons Plumbing. Perhaps they can figure it out. Perhaps they will crash and burn. Either way, not my problem. What do I know? Sometimes the best thing you can do is move away from individuals who don't appreciate you. Even if they are family. Especially if they are family. It took me 15 years in a company truck to learn this lesson. Better late than never." Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you. My husband was manipulated by his mother and demanded a paternity test for our child. I agreed, but my mother-in-law tampered with the results. I, 28F, have been with my spouse, Mark, 30M, name changed for privacy, for 6 years and married for the past 2. I'll start with some backstory. My mother-in-law has never been the nicest person to me, but I usually ignored it, especially in the start of our relationship. I was young and naive, and I imagined that mother-in-laws behaved similarly with their sons. When I was 16, I moved out of my family's house and haven't had much contact with them since. So I didn't have any perspective on what a healthy family looked like. I guess the events of the last few weeks have been building up for a while, and now I'm completely lost. I don't know what to do. For reference, when I first met my husband's parents, we were all out to dinner. His mother appeared kind enough at first, but throughout the dinner, she kept making comments that were targeted and underhanded. "So, do you have a job of your own, or do you just live off Mark's money? Have you ever considered losing weight? You have such a pretty face. I think you would be stunning if you were a little slimmer. You're a great girl, but I just don't think I could ever find anyone good enough for my baby boy." I understand, I ignored every possible red flag. But, in my defense, I was deeply in love with this guy. She constantly said these things in a nice, humorous tone, and I didn't want to overreact. For the first several years of our relationship, she frequently made small, underhanded comments about my weight, appearance, or the idea that I was dating Mark for his money. The trouble is, we both work in the same field and earn nearly the same amount. While he earns slightly more than I do, it is far from enough to justify gold digging. At first, the things she said bothered me, so I took them up with Mark. He repeatedly told her to quit making comments like that. But, because it was never anything excessive, he dismissed them, stating that because he is her only kid, Mom is a little clingy. We also didn't see his parents very much because we were both busy at work and lived about an hour away. When he proposed to me, things quickly escalated. I won't go into too much detail, but my mother-in-law made our engagement and wedding difficult. When we invited his parents to supper to announce our engagement, his mother broke down when she saw the diamond. She asked Mark how much it cost and flushed bright red when he told her. I understand that it may appear to be a lot to others, but we both work in a lucrative industry and are financially blessed. The price was reasonable for him. Still, she informed him that I didn't deserve such a costly ring and that he had never purchased her anything that expensive, something she thought she deserved as his mother. She also stated that she did not believe he was serious about me after we had been dating for 3 years. Mark urged her not to be crazy and left it at that, but supper was destroyed, and everyone left shortly thereafter. His mother did not speak to him for 3 weeks after that. Later, she sent him an apology, stating she was afraid of losing her little man. During the wedding planning, my mother-in-law attempted to tamper with the guest list and vendors. And yes, she wore a white dress to my wedding. Mark supported me throughout this. We had passwords for all of the vendors, and he had his mom change them. Our first year of marriage was wonderful. We wanted to have a family and started trying for a baby right away. However, everything changed when I became pregnant at the end of last year. We surprised my in-laws at their house with a small gift basket including champagne, chocolate, and a tiny plaque that read Grandma. When they opened it and realized what was going on, my mother-in-law looked at me and said, "You sure it's my baby? Mark's, right?" I was astonished, but she smiled and behaved as if it were a joke, and the evening went on. That's when she started making a lot of comments about my weight. "You've really put on a few pounds, haven't you? Be careful, or your husband's eyes might start to wander." I stayed thin during my whole pregnancy with Mark. "You should really stop being so lazy and put effort into looking good for my baby, Mark." She also mentioned women she knew who had misidentified another man's child as their husbands. It always felt like she was after me. She even joked about how she wished I wouldn't do something like that, implying that I cheated. I despised these statements and constantly requested her not to make them. She would dismiss it, adding, "You take things too seriously, can't you take a joke?" Then she brought up Lauren, 30F, Mark's ex from high school. She would talk about Lauren's skinny and petite figure and how she matched Mark better because they were both athletic. These comments, along with pregnancy hormones, caused me to cry several times. At first, Mark would yell at his mother to stop talking to me in that manner, which only irritated her more. But about the 4th or 5th month, he became distant. He started visiting his mother more frequently without me and would come over on weekends, even when I begged him to remain because I was sick or in agony. Around my 5th month, he stopped kissing me goodbye in the mornings before work, hugging or caressing me at home, and expressing no emotion at all. I was completely confused. But whenever I asked him what was wrong, he became irritated and told me I was acting clingy and annoying, or that he was just tired. He even indicated that I was acting crazy due to my pregnancy hormones. I let it go and tried to concentrate on myself and my kid, but I was sure my mother-in-law was bugging him about it. When my baby was born 1 month ago, my mother-in-law insisted on being present in the delivery room. I didn't want her there. But Mark claimed if I didn't allow her to come, he wouldn't be there for me either. At this point, I was so emotionally and physically weary that I caved in and let her stay. Although my labor was long and complicated, holding my kid was the sweetest moment of my life. I'd do it all again for him. Then, just after they cleaned him up and returned him to me, Mark went to me and said, "I want a paternity test." I was shocked. I assumed it was a prank at first. But he was serious. I was really perplexed and kept asking why. I'd never cheated on anyone or given him cause to believe I had. My job was remote, and he had to go into the office, so I was practically constantly at home. My pregnancy was very challenging, therefore I didn't have the opportunity or time to have an affair. He kept stressing that he wanted to be sure the baby was his and that he didn't want to pay for some other man's child. Hearing him say such things about our baby broke my heart. I consented to take the paternity test because I had nothing to conceal. 3 weeks ago, we received the results. As you might expect based on the headline, the results were negative. I thought there had to be a mistake, but Mark refused to even look at me. He packed his belongings and left for his mother's place, leaving me home alone with a 2-week-old newborn. I called repeatedly, but he didn't answer. I texted him, saying there had to be a mistake and suggesting another test, but he did not respond. He eventually called me 1 week ago. By this point, I was a wreck and all I needed was help with my baby. Instead of offering any comfort, he remarked, "My mother was correct. I can't believe I married a woman like you." That's when everything clicked. What did he mean when he said his mom was right? At that point, I was certain she had told him lies about me having an affair, being immoral, or something equally ridiculous. I decided to phone my mother-in-law yesterday because Mark no longer responded to my messages. When she answered, I told her I needed to speak with Mark and that he couldn't just abandon me with a 1-week-old kid after all of the issues I experienced throughout pregnancy and labor. She smiled and told me he wasn't home, and that I earned what I received. That was it. I was finished. I was done with the entire family by this time. I had my baby to think about, and I was not going to let them walk all over him like they had done to me. I was not going to put up with my mother-in-law's nonsense longer. I replied, "I don't know what you think of me, but I never cheated." The test was wrong. That was the turning point. She laughed again and informed me that she already knew. Then she acknowledged that she had submitted the incorrect sample to ensure that the results were negative, because, in her words, I did not deserve her kid, Mark. She refused to let me baby trap him. She went even further. He will never believe you or put some woman over his own mother, so just let it go. I was stunned. For a minute, I was unable to answer. Then she went on a big rant about how she always wanted Mark to be with someone good enough for him, someone who matched him in appearance. She mentioned Lauren again, stating how much she missed her and how Mark should recognize that she was the one he was meant to be with. The paternity test was simply a ploy to encourage him to leave me so she could find him a suitable companion. I hung up. Since then, I've been numb. I can't believe a real grown-up would act like this. That gets me to where I am now. I texted Mark right after and told him what she had said. I advised him to ask her himself. I'm not sure where to proceed from here. Should I have another paternity test? I'm thinking of hiring a lawyer, but I don't want to make things any more complicated. Should I even take him back if he decides he wants to return? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Update. One quick update for everyone who asked. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who responded and offered suggestions. I honestly didn't anticipate so many people to see this. I went to bed last night after finishing this post and awoke to 900 comments. I read them all, but I won't be able to respond to everyone, so I'll answer a few questions here. As I mentioned in my essay, I am not connected to my family and have not spoken to my parents in years. They did not attend my wedding, and I do not believe they are aware of or concerned about my baby. My family is from Minnesota, but I came to the East Coast after leaving my parents' house. I supported myself through school and college by working various jobs, met Mark in college, and have been working remotely since. I don't have many friends locally, and my family is out of the question. I'll call my coworker Katie, F., who lives close, and we occasionally text. I informed Katie a little about what was going on, and she was kind enough to offer to come over and support me. When she arrived at my place, I was a wreck. I hadn't showered in a week, the house was a mess, and my 2-week-old newborn was wailing in my arms. I burst into tears because I was so relieved to see her. Which was awkward because we weren't even close. But she was incredible. She inquired what was going on, and I couldn't even explain. So I just showed her the original post. Katie has been a sweetheart. She's been minding my son while I clean up, eat some proper food, and take my first hot shower in 2 weeks. She's also been a rock for me right now and is outraged on my behalf. To be honest, it feels great to finally have someone on my side. That's it for now. Several of you inquired about my father-in-law. I never mentioned him because he isn't very talkative. I'm not sure what he thinks of me, but he's always been kind to me and normally overlooks my mother-in-law. I'm also not sure why my mother-in-law dislikes me so much, but it's not because of ethnicity or religion, as some of you have stated. We are all white and not religious. I believe it's because I'm a bit of a big girl and rather tall, but Mark is really fit and enjoys working out at the gym. I'm not big or unhealthy, I exercise regularly, but I'm not as small as my mother-in-law or some of Mark's ex-partners. That is my best guess. Honestly. I'm also planning to contact a lawyer today. At this point, I don't think I'll ever look at Mark in the same way again. I know I want a divorce. I had already screenshotted as many chats as possible, both with my mother-in-law and with Mark, just in case this happened. I'll also acquire another paternity test and give him the results as I serve him with divorce papers. He hasn't responded to my texts yet, and at this point, I do not care. I don't want my son to have a father like him. I'm outraged that he didn't even talk to me before departing me and his son. I don't even want him around anymore. Update number 2. Hello everyone, it's been a pretty hectic couple of months, and I've had numerous comments and private messages requesting an update. So I figured I'd catch everyone up. It's been 2 months since my previous post. Mark returned home about 2 days after I posted my first update. By that point, I had cleaned myself in the house, thanks to Katie, and had contacted with a lawyer about divorce proceedings. Mark arrived early in the morning, looking utterly dreadful. Unshaven. His eyes appeared as if he'd been crying for 3 days. I was not expecting him. We stood there in quiet for a bit before he sobbed and apologized. I know I claimed I didn't want anything to do with him anymore, but seeing him stand in front of me was difficult. I'd loved this man for 6 years, and it was difficult to let go of everything. Hearing him apologize felt wonderful too. I allowed him in, and we sat in the living room while I held my baby. He kept crying. Eventually, he begged to hold his son. The wrath from the previous few days returned, and I said no. He simply nodded and let it go. After gathering his thoughts, he asked if we could talk. I consented because I wanted to know what he had to say. Thank you to a commenter here, I remembered to record the chat on my phone. The truth comes out. He didn't want to believe it when I texted him what his mother had told me, but it continued bothering him. Finally, he chose to confront her. Of course, she denied it, telling him that I was attempting to baby trap him for money and isolate him from his family. However, my father-in-law had had enough of his insane wife at that point, and he told Mark everything. It appears that one of my mother-in-law's nephews worked at the lab where the paternity test was sent. She persuaded him to switch the results. Mark stated that it felt as if his entire universe had fallen in that moment. Because he recognized what a lousy husband and father he had been up to this point. What a manipulative bitch his mother was. To be honest, hearing that made me feel amazing. But it was not the end. The scope of her manipulation. His mother then attempted to defend herself by claiming that I was too large and womanly for her ideal, handsome son. She wanted him to divorce me and reunite with his ex since, in her opinion, she was prettier and more suitable for him. She also despised the fact that he was paying me and our baby too much attention, because it was taking precious time away from her. Things become worse. When he came over to her place during my 4th month, one of the occasions I was unable to go, she invited his ex, Lauren. She convinced Mark that I had been aloof and irritated because I was having an affair and forcing him to raise another man's child. Lauren, who was petite and, admittedly, very attractive, flirted with him at every opportunity. And Mark acknowledged falling for his mother's deception. He began seeing Lauren behind my back. Because he enjoyed feeling wanted. As I struggled with my pregnancy, he was the one having the affair. He stated they never slept together, only dated and kissed and such. As if that makes things better. He claimed he called it off the week before I went into labor due to remorse. Then, after telling me everything, he pleaded for forgiveness. He stated that he will go to any length to resolve the situation. That if it came to it, he would remove his mother from our life for good. And for a brief while, it seemed tempting. I almost gave in. Then I glanced at my son. And I remembered everything he had put me through over the past year. How he never established boundaries with his mother. How he engaged in an affair. How he abandoned me when I was most vulnerable. I informed him that with everything that had happened during my pregnancy and after our son was born, it simply wasn't feasible. I no longer saw him the same way, and I had lost trust in him. He cried some more before agreeing to arrange a motel nearby. I also informed him I wanted to take a true paternity test again. He protested, but I insisted. So the test was scheduled for the very next day, the results and divorce. 2 weeks later, the results were returned. Wouldn't you know it? He's the father? Cue more crying from him. Is it awful that I felt vindicated? Last week, the divorce papers were finally drafted, and I served him. After 2 months of agony, he was a wreck and attempted to recommend couples counseling before making any major decisions. But I was really done with him. I requested a 50-50 asset distribution and primary custody, which my lawyer believes will be readily granted given the facts I have of Mark's behavior toward our baby. Mark will get supervised visits on weekends, and his mother will not be permitted around my child. Mark stated that he will not challenge me on the terms, out of guilt. And honestly, rightly so. Father-in-law steps in. My father-in-law contacted me the day Mark was served to apologize for not stepping in sooner. I forgive him. From what I've heard, he's always been a laid-back man, and Mark has also stated that he is likely to leave his wife. What about my mother-in-law? I don't know anything about her anymore. She's been blocked since the day Mark arrived at my door. Moving forward, I'll be moving out of our flat. While I am heartbroken and overwhelmed by how my marriage ended, I am also hopeful for the future. So that's what's been going on recently. I probably won't update for a bit. It's time to focus on myself and my son. I'd simply like to thank everyone who offered advice and support. I'm quite appreciative. I probably wouldn't have gotten this far without it. Update 3. Wow, I had forgotten about this account. It's been a year since my previous post. I deleted Reddit off my phone and sort of forgot about it. This will be a brief update for those who wish to know. Current situation. My divorce is set to be finalized next month. Mark abruptly decided that he no longer wanted to give me majority custody or supervised visits, so the proceedings took a while. But my attorney was a beast. With the tapes I have of his admission regarding his behavior throughout and after my pregnancy, I have a good chance of getting what I want. My baby is now 14 months old and the loveliest little boy. We moved across the state to a charming little apartment. Thanks to my job, I can spend most of my time with him. I've also begun going out more and joined a book club, so I've definitely met some new people here. The divorce, relocation, and attempting to raise my son on my own have all been difficult. But, really? I feel so much better without Mark and his witch of a mother ruining my life. I should have recognized the warning signs from the start, when this man repeatedly prioritized his mother before his own pregnant wife. But you live and learn. And I will not make that mistake again. What's next? I'm not sure if I'm ready for a relationship again. But, for the time being, all I want to do is be as present as possible with my son. I don't think I'll be updating again, but I'd like to add that I'm in a much better place than I was last year. And I thank everyone who has wished me well.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.
I found out my child is my brother's. I decided to divorce. My parents begged me to stay silent because my father-in-law invests in their company. I, 28M, have been married for 3 years, and my wife Jade, 26F, and I have been together for 6 years. We had our first child a few months ago, but I only recently discovered that the baby is my brother's biological child. My brother Grant, 32 million, had been having an affair with Jade for the previous 3 years. It began just a few weeks after our wedding, and I had no idea until a few weeks ago. To be honest, I had been having trouble connecting emotionally with the infant for some reason. I had been feeling like a bad father because I didn't feel very attached to my own child. I still don't understand why that was happening. Maybe it was just a gut feeling. One night, I was discussing this with Jade, and I burst into tears because I felt so guilty. Instead of soothing me, she began sobbing uncontrollably. That's when the full truth came out. She agreed that it wasn't my fault that I didn't feel connected to the baby wasn't mine. She had already received the paternity test results but chose not to inform me. She said the affair ended shortly after she discovered she was pregnant and that she and Grant had no contact with each other anymore. She wanted to focus on me and our marriage. But once she told me the truth, it was too late. I started packing right away and went, despite the fact that it was late at night. Since then, I have been staying at a hotel. Jade attempted to stop me. She was quite furious, but I just left. I even blocked her, so she couldn't reach me. Since then, this has drained a lot of my emotional energy. For the first few days, I couldn't process what was going on. I did not even inform my parents about it. But they found out, thanks to Jade and Grant. Instead of comforting me, they called, said they knew everything, and then began telling me that whatever had happened was in the past. They claimed that Jade had made a mistake, but as her husband, I had to forgive her, put everything else aside, and focus on our family and our marriage. I had no concept what they meant by family, because the infant was not mine. It was ludicrous of them to advise that I raise the baby as a father and stay with Jade despite everything. I believed they were insane, but my dad eventually told me the reality. Apparently, this was merely a commercial transaction for my parents. My father-in-law intended to invest in my father's failing logistics business in order to restore it. My father-in-law runs numerous established enterprises and is financially secure. I knew my parents were always impressed with the family I married into, but I never imagined it would mean so much to them. Apparently, this investment has been in the works for quite some time, and they intended to surprise us with it in a few weeks once everything was finalized. However, divorcing Jade would have a negative impact on their personal ties. They were concerned that my father-in-law would reconsider investing in the firm. According to my parents, my father sorely needed this money to keep his firm running. That's why they wanted me to suck it up, remain silent, and not make a big fuss about it. They wanted me to pretend everything was fine, raise my brother's child as if it were my own, and forgive my unfaithful wife, all in order to complete their commercial agreement. I was so horrified, I hung up and blocked them. Then, just for good measure, I started looking for a lawyer right away. As soon as I met someone suitable, I filed for divorce. Jade was served approximately 3 days ago. On the same day, I decided to contact my parents, in-laws, every business acquaintance of my father that I knew, a couple of employees in my father's firm, a few family friends, and some cousins to inform them of my current predicament. It took me a few hours to get everyone's email addresses, but once I did, I notified them all about my wife cheating on me with my brother. I also confessed that my parents had encouraged me to remain silent and pretend everything was normal so that they might acquire an investment. Then I sent an email. Now, my folks are inundating my phone with emails, SMS, and phone calls from numerous numbers and accounts. They are really furious about what I have done since, of course, they will no longer receive that investment. On top of that, they have lost their reputation. They want me to apologize, as if that will resolve everything. They also inform me that Jade is distraught and has been diagnosed with postpartum depression, suggesting that my actions will only make matters worse. She is really miserable, and they are attempting to make me feel bad. But, honestly, I don't feel awful about anything. I think they earned it. So, am I the asshole for exposing the truth about my wife and parents, embarrassing them in public? Edit. Okay, I see there are a lot of questions concerning Grant, his relationship with Jade and me, and other things. So I will address that. Grant and I had a fairly normal connection, as most brothers do. The entire event was totally unexpected. We haven't spoken once since finding out. Grant had an apparently typical connection with Jade. I never suspected there was anything going on between them. Furthermore, Grant had always been a loner who had no interest in sticking with one woman for an extended period of time. His job forced him to travel frequently, and aside from that, he was spontaneous and always on the go, completely unlike me. From what I understood, he was never Jade's type, either in appearance or demeanor. So, obviously, none of this made sense to me. Jade informed me that they just started hooking up after we got married, and it ended when she discovered she was pregnant. She might be saying the truth or not. But, even then, I saw nothing strange. They were just very excellent at concealing it. Whatever it was, I always assumed they were only friendly with each other. I'm not exactly sure why Jade cheated on me. When she was attempting to persuade me to stay and justifying herself, she mentioned how I overworked at the beginning of our marriage. I had just started working because I did not want to continue my father's business. I knew I needed to work hard if I wanted to advance. Sure, some may say I was serious about my profession, but I never overworked or carried my work home with me. I believe she was just bored and wanted an excuse to meet up with someone else, which is exactly what she did. Any other reason she provides is only an attempt to rationalize her behavior because she does not want to recognize that this was totally her fault. That is pretty much all I know about Grant and his relationship with Jade. Update 1. Thank you all for your comments and support. It means a lot to me, especially given my current situation. Everyone hates me, whether it's my parents or my in-laws, because they believe I embarrassed them by informing so many people about what Jade did, including those who didn't need to know. It's been a few days, and I've spent every second either drowning in work at the office or returning to the hotel and deleting the innumerable texts and emails my parents continue to send me from various accounts. They are absolutely relentless. They're simply not going to quit. I try blocking them, but they keep creating new accounts and numbers. I'm not even sure why they're going to such extremes. The damage is already done. My apologies will not change the reality, nor will they become more respectable. My in-laws reached out to me a few days ago. They explained that my email was entirely unnecessary. They discovered who else I had emailed it to and accused me of sending it to a group of individuals my parents knew solely to disgrace them. However, they allege that because I did so, Jade was also humiliated. I don't understand why I should feel awful about that. That woman literally cheated on me with my brother and was content to let me believe the baby was mine, enabling me to raise my brother's child as my own, until she broke down that night. She did something disgusting. She completely earned this. I didn't bother responding to my in-laws since I really just want to move on from this. I'm currently waiting for Jade's lawyer to react to the divorce filing. In my opinion, I've been quite fair, and I just hope she doesn't complain about anything. As for the baby, it isn't mine, so I won't be donating anything. I might be the father mentioned on the birth certificate, but that makes no difference to me. I don't detest the baby or anything. In fact, the baby is the only fully innocent individual in the whole affair. I honestly feel horrible for him because he will pay the price for his parents' misdeeds. Even still, it is not my job to care for a child who is not biologically mine, especially if the real father is my brother. If Jade brings up anything regarding the kid, I already know I'm not going to accept responsibility. I'm basically ready for every potential circumstance because I have no idea what to expect right now. I haven't spoken to Jade since I left, and I don't want to ever speak to her again. I know she is unhappy right now, enough people have told me so. Even as I was leaving, I could tell she was really sad. I just hope her pain doesn't lead her to believe she can dispute the divorce and convince me to stay, because that will never happen. At all costs. I will do whatever it takes to get out of this circumstance. In the meantime, I'm hoping she doesn't drag this out and make things much more difficult than they currently are. Please keep me in your prayers, and I hope she does not oppose the divorce and make matters worse for everyone concerned. She still has a few days to respond, so I'm praying she makes the correct decision. Update 2. Hello everyone, it's been a week since my last update, and today I finally received a response from Jade and her lawyer. Fortunately, she is not opposing the divorce. But now there's another issue. She has provided a child custody agreement, insisting that I step forward as the biological father. She even wrote a statement stating that because I am included on the birth certificate, even though I am not the biological father, I have been involved in the baby's life for the past few months and must accept responsibility, whether I like it or not. It was infuriating. The name on the birth certificate is meaningless in comparison to the paternity test findings. So I immediately contacted my lawyer, and we decided to proceed with disestablishing paternity. That way, I can be legally released from all obligations for the infant. Until the legal process is completed, I will be presumed to be the legal father. But the infant is just 4 months old, so I don't believe it will matter too much. I'm still optimistic that the procedure will be done shortly. My lawyer promised me that the process would not be difficult. Given the baby's age, my absence is unlikely to have any effect on him. He'll most likely forget that I ever existed in his life. It would have been a much bigger problem if I had discovered it later, when he was older. But for now, everything should be good. To be honest, I'm pleased I found out when I did. If this had occurred later, I'm not sure how difficult it would have been to deal with, especially emotionally. I might have developed a bond to the baby, making things even more confusing. I am also relieved that I was unable to bond with the baby at first. I had read about it online and discovered that many new parents face similar challenges, so I hoped that with time, I would bond with the baby like a normal father. But now I thank God that didn't happen. The remorse I felt for not connecting with him prompted me to confess it to Jade, revealing the truth. If I had bonded with the infant, I might not have found out. That is the only silver lining in this whole mess. Another source of relief is that, in recent days, my parents have finally decided to back off, at least temporarily. I'm not sure what their future plans are, but happily, they haven't texted or bothered me. It has just been radio silence. Now that I've had some time to evaluate my future, I'm thinking about moving out of the hotel and into an apartment near my workplace. At the moment, all I want to do is work and sleep. Of course, I can't remain at a hotel indefinitely, it'll get too expensive. So I approached a few acquaintances to put me in touch with a realtor. I'll see where it goes. I've also started responding to everyone who answered my email. Surprisingly, quite a few people expressed sympathy and compassion for me. I'm not sure if their worry was real, but I decided the nice thing to do was answer. Now that I think about it, they must have felt odd receiving such an email. The very least I could do was acknowledge them. Almost 90% of the folks in my family who received the email expressed sympathy and confidence that everything will be all right. The majority of the employees ignored the email, but a handful of my father's business associates responded in like. I thanked everyone, including a few folks I hadn't originally contacted. I'm guessing they got out from other sources, as I'm sure this spread like wildfire as family gossip. But as long as people reach out to express their sympathy, I'm fine with it. At the very least, they are not attempting to obtain additional information. It may appear needy, but right now, I'm quite content to receive whatever lovely words come my way, whether they're true or not, from friends or relatives. Because, no matter how unhappy I am, I still miss her. I miss being with her. I miss my parents and family. I miss when everything was normal. Despite the fact that they betrayed my confidence, I believe it is quite reasonable for me to feel this way. It's not like I can turn a switch and stop caring. It will take me a long time to completely digest everything. But for the time being, I'm in a strange emotional limbo in which I'm unsure how to cope. I feel quite alone right now, but I suppose things will improve someday. I don't think I'll ever be able to totally accept it. Jade was the first woman I ever truly loved. But life won't stop for me. I still need to work. I still have to deal with all of the practical issues, and I have to keep going forward. It sucks. But that's the way it is. Update 3. Hello, everyone. I filed a petition to disestablish paternity about a week ago, and both parents were summoned before family court. Of course, Jade lost her head over it. She didn't know how else to contact me, so she created a phony Facebook account and began phoning me over Messenger. This happened yesterday while I was at a meeting, so I had my phone on quiet. I hadn't even noticed it at first. Later, when I checked, I discovered that she had contacted me approximately 12 times in 45 minutes. She had also sent me a slew of angry messages when I didn't answer. Apparently, she believes Grant and I have ruined her life. She told me that she did not break up with Grant after the pregnancy. Rather, he dumped her after discovering she was pregnant since he did not want anything serious. That's when she decided to continue with me, knowing that I was committed to her. But then she discovered that Grant was the father, so she tried to contact him again. This time, he simply informed her to end the pregnancy since he was not ready to be a father and had no intention of committing to her. She kept attempting to reach him, but he simply ignored her. He eventually blocked her totally. She told me everything in her messages. Now she accuses me of abandoning her, just as my brother did. And that, it appears, is how the two of us ruined her life, by leaving her alone with a baby. Grant has made it abundantly apparent that he is not interested in raising the child with her. Even if she gets him to pay child support, she won't be able to make him a true parent. And now, she claims, she and the baby will suffer. I cannot understand how any of this is my fault. I can see why she believes Grant ruined her life, despite the fact that she had an affair with him knowing exactly who he was and that he disliked being tied down. But how does she blame me? The mental gymnastics here are insane. After reading her communications, it became evident to me that she only wanted to play the victim. In any case, I didn't want to talk to her, so I blocked her. If she knows what is best for her, she will not argue the paternity issue and will allow me to disestablish fatherhood peacefully. This allows her to save time, money, and resources while focusing on getting Grant to step up and pay child support. She's pursuing the wrong brother, that's all I have to say about it. Anyway, the whole problem will be resolved in court, so I don't want to worry about it right now. In addition, I had my parents' support. But recently, I believe they have chosen to leave me alone. In my previous update, I noted that they hadn't troubled me in a few days. Since then, they have not texted me at all. This could be the quiet before the storm, or they may discover they have already lost their reputation and investment. Making me apologize won't solve anything for them. According to what I've heard from a few relatives, my parents have gone utterly missing. They have canceled all of their social media accounts, stopped communicating with family members, and, as far as I know, my father's business has been defunct for quite some time. People believe he is in the process of selling everything, which is why the company is closed. If that's the case, I know he'll be devastated. He was always quite proud of what he created. Ah well. My father is almost in his late 50s, so I hope he has enough savings to retire. I don't believe he can start again and work for someone else at this point in his life. I am not on good terms with him right now, but I know he used to work hard. Perhaps he messed up recently, but he had always tried to be a decent parent to me. So, I hope everything works out for him. That being said, I hope I don't have to speak with him for a while. I'm just not prepared for it yet. Even without me, they still have Grant. He makes a nice living, and I don't think it bothers them that he is rarely at home. He does not have a family, and I doubt he intends to establish one. So, if my parents don't have enough savings, they can always rely on Grant. He may become their retirement fund, and honestly, I hope Jade does the same thing. I hope she gets some child support from him. That'll be enjoyable. Fun for me, but not so much for him. But after everything he's done to ruin my marriage and the life I've created for myself, that's the least I can hope for him. Anyway, that's all for now. I'll post again if anything more happens. Please keep me in your prayers, and thank you all again for your love and support. Update 4. Hello guys, I haven't posted here in a while since I've been quite busy. I suppose my previous update was about 5 weeks ago. But, in the interim, I was able to officially end paternity. That means I will not be paying child support or accepting any responsibility. It was a major victory for me, especially since I assumed she would try her hardest to drag it out. Fortunately, she did not contest it. I believe she realized that opposing it would be a waste of time, money, and resources. Clearly, the family court judge was no fool. She had already refused to comply and provide the paternity test results, so I had to do them separately. But this was not going to influence the outcome. She could have kept it for as long as she wanted, even 10 years, but it would have made no difference because I was not the father. Anyway, I was able to verify that the infant was not my biological child. And because I had only been in his life for 4 months, the court determined that my absence would have little influence on him. That is how I obtained what I desired. Since then, I haven't spoken with Jade, and happily, she hasn't bothered me. My parents' firm has been sold, and they are preparing to relocate, according to a handful of cousins. They've only told a few individuals where they're going, those who have stuck by them during this whole ordeal. But really? It's not difficult for me to guess. I believe they are relocating to my uncle's home in Iowa so that my mother can join her brother in managing the farm they inherited from their parents. This was always her plan. She had offered it to my father several times over the years, but he had no desire to leave the city. They used to argue about it a lot. Now, he does not really have an option. So he has finally agreed. At the very least, my father will continue to be a member of a family business, albeit not the one he had hoped to lead indefinitely. But all of that is in the past. I've been trying to move on from what happened. I have been going to therapy. I have been going to the gym. I have been actively working on myself. I wouldn't claim I've fully recovered, that would be a lie, but I am in the process of moving on. Some days are excellent. Some days are especially difficult. But I am getting by. Update 5. It has been over 6 months since my previous update. A lot of time has passed, and I'm feeling considerably better. I was promoted at work, most likely as a result of all those months spent immersing myself in work to keep myself distracted. Certainly not a healthy coping strategy, but at least something positive came from it. Also, I'm officially divorced. It was finalized a few months ago, but I forgot to mention it here. Because there wasn't much to divide and she didn't want alimony, the process was rather simple. We simply had to wait for the necessary time period to pass before it could be finalized. So, yes. We're officially divorced now. I haven't seen her since then, but a few weeks ago, I learned from some common friends that she had moved back in with her parents. She's currently raising her son with them. Until lately, she had been living independently in the property we used to share, but I suppose she can no longer afford the rent without me. Perhaps she merely wanted extra assistance from her parents. Honestly, hearing this bit of gossip prompted me to post this update. I hadn't given it much thought because I've been so busy. But when our mutual friends informed me of her condition, I felt compelled to return here and share. As for Grant, I believe he is the only one who has come out of this disaster undamaged. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little jealous of him. According to what I've heard from relatives, he appears to be doing well. But at the end of the day, he remains a homewrecker. He is still a bad person. So, I believe karma will catch up with him someday. Meanwhile, I'm going to focus solely on myself.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.